So welcome back, everyone. Let's start again, like usual, with a brief homage. Homage to our teacher, Shakyamuni Buddha. Homage to Manjushri for his wisdom and courageous knowledge. Homage to the great benefactor, our lineage masters. With all of you kindness and love, let your wisdom shine in light, clear the darkness of my ignorance once and for all. Grant me, I pray, the intelligence, the brilliance to understand the scriptures, both the word and the treatises. So let's study this lesson again with bodhicitta. So in the last one, we're still in the chapter 2, which is about impermanence of life. This whole chapter is divided into 7 points. So last lesson, we studied point 5 as examples of impermanence. And today we're going to continue to the 6th point and mostly 6th point and a little bit touch the point 7. So we, as usual, we give a review of last lesson, so which was about the impermanence through other examples. Khenpo always give pre-lecture instructions about how important it is to practice and to practice in tune with Dharma. You don't want to practice the way you think you should be practicing. So also practice stage by stage, like right now we always emphasize on preliminaries. That's what our current lesson is about. So so in terms of the Dharma, and we the book and Khenpo provided like different ways to observe impermanence, like for us to analyze impermanence. So so through all these different kind of analysis, whatever is born is bound to die. Whatever is stored up is bound to run out. Whatever comes together is bound to come apart. Whatever constructed is bound to collapse. Whatever is built is impermanent and is bound to collapse. All friendship and enmity is ephemeral. Good fortune and deprivation never last forever. They always interchange. Like, and then excellence and mediocrity are also impermanent. So conclusion is that nothing from the highest states of existence, meaning the highest heavens, down to the lowest hells, has even a scrap of permanence or stability. So everything is subject to change. Everything waxes and wanes. So if we follow all these points to meditate, to analyze, you have to come to the conclusion, indeed, everything is impermanent. Everything is ever changing. So there's no need to really be attached to certain status, right? So also in sense, because it's all temporary. So that's about the last lesson. And today we're going to go to lesson 37, which is about uncertainty of circumstances of death. And then the next point, point 7, intense awareness of impermanence. So in the pre-lecture instruction, Khenpo talked about meditating on impermanence and the integrated view into one's mind, very briefly. And then on the point 6, sorry, we talked about meditate on uncertainty of circumstances of death. So this is divided into 3 major points. So the first one is like everyone is sure to die. We all know that. We don't want to think about it, but we know it. But how, where, and when to die are uncertain. So and this is point 1. Point 2 is many causes for death. So they are in our life. There are many causes for death, but really just few causes of living. The third point is that the time of death is uncertain. I guess nobody here, at least I don't know when I'm going to die. So there's a small summary about this, the 6th point. And then we go on to touch a little bit about the 7th point, which is the intense awareness of impermanence. How it's actually still another piece instruction for you for our daily practice. Point 6 is more for meditation. Point 7 is more towards daily practice. So we want to meditate single-mindedly on that. So all the time and in every circumstances, and we will have examples about how to do that. So for the pre-lecture instructions, I think I'm going to go through this slide myself because it's relatively simple today. So Khenpo emphasize, we also talked about this last time, about how we do actually integrate the Dharma, the book contents into our mind. So the simple way is just you review the book's content, you read a few pages, and then you analyze in your mind and meditate on it, and then you arise a definitive understanding, say, okay, this point it's valid in my mind now. So since it's valid, so when you do your daily activities, you would be able to use those guidelines or rules to guide your daily activities. And this is called, we call it analytical meditation and the shamatha meditation. So do not let the Dharma stay in the book. It has to be going to your mind. So that is how we call, what we call tame our mind. So only in this way, when we change our mind, we'll change our behavior, and then that is the blessing of the Dharma. So Khenpo also emphasize, so some people may have the very extensive knowledge, and they know every single line, maybe in a sutra or in the Dharma. But if it cannot be used in your daily life, then you will not be able to gain much of the benefit from it. So the main thing is when we face birth, old age, sickness, and death, or when we leave this world, we could easily run in the opposite directions of Dharma. If we do not use our realization from practices to control our mind. We know when we die, the body is left here, but our mind is still ongoing. So the only thing you need to control is just your mind. So that's how we do this practice here. It's also the instructions from passed down from the great monks and eminent masters. So that's the brief pre-lecture instructions. And now we go to our real teaching. As normal, we're going to call for people to help us to read. Let's see, we start from Aaron today, from the beginning.
Okay. The uncertainty of the circumstances of death. Once born, every human in the world is approaching death step by step. Everyone is clear that he or she will eventually die, but how, why, when, and where we are going to die cannot be predicted. This means that none of us can say for sure that our death will come about at a particular time or place, in a certain way, or as a result of this or that cause. Almost all the Dharma friends sitting here will leave this world one by one within 100 years. No one will remain then. However, the way everyone dies is different. Sorry. Some die in the hospital, some die on the road, some die by jumping into the river, some die by suicide, some suffer and die in natural or man-made disasters. But what is the exact way you will die? Maybe no one knows for sure. Where to die is also uncertain. Many Dharma friends in the academy really wish they could die in Larongar. However, you say this when you're in good health, but once you fall sick, you would rush to get permission to leave to see a doctor because the medical conditions here are relatively poor. Eventually, you do not die in Larongar, rather you pass into nirvana in your hometown. Neither is there a certainty on the time of death. If the time of death can be determined, we will know how many years we have until we die, that we can reasonably organize to remain the remaining time to plan how many meditations we shall practice and how many mantras we shall chant every day. But this cannot be determined.
All right, thank you, Aaron. And any comments on this?
Definitely very true. Yeah, the uncertainty, it's inevitable, but yeah, definitely uncertain. No one can predict.
Would you think about it if it's not written down like this?
No, I mean, my wife and I were, Kathy and I were talking about this morning.
Right.
And I do think about it. You know, I've been through a couple of situations where that were pretty sketchy, and just had a chance to see what I would think in a pretty dire situation. You know, and also, you know, a couple of days ago, you know, my father was just diagnosed with, you know, a very late stage lung cancer.
Oh,
and
sorry to hear that.
Yeah. And, you know, I mean, we lost our mother when I was, you know, fairly young. And so, you know, I think that because of that and other things, that I have always thought about, you know, mortality and impermanence in life. You know, I thought about it in a very different way, in a, you know, with a definite, more of a finality rather than a stage and a continuation. But for me personally, it's something that, you know, I think because I had to deal with it at a fairly young age, I've thought about it, you know, throughout my life in you know, one way or another.
So would you further be able to like listen to a little Buddhism, like chant some names or anything?
Yeah, that I don't know. He's very, like most of my family, he's very Catholic.
I see.
But
yeah, you guys
yeah,
can
so
do
that
it
I
for
don't
him.
know. I mean, he's familiar with Buddhism. You know, he spent, you know, time in Japan, and you know, so he's, you know, familiar with Buddhism. But yeah, like he's Catholic. You know, so
Yeah,
I don't
I
know if he would.
understand.
Yeah.
But you guys can do it for him.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, cancer. Yeah, it's not I lost my mother to cancer also. So it's what can we do? Really, a lot of times when you think about these kind of situation, really, except for medical care, we seek, we do as much as we can. I think the really important thing is actually to, if we can turn them into a little bit of Buddhism believer, or you know, some of those really will be really helpful. But it really depends on each person. My mother, before she passed away, she was able to do a lot of chanting, Amitabha chanting. So I felt really quite okay actually when she passed away, even though I couldn't go back. But I think she passed in peace, and we got group chanting for her. And I could chant. I could see her face. My brother take pictures of her face and sent to me. So her face turned really peaceful after the chanting. So it really helps. That's what I want to say. Well, that's actual words I'm putting here. Got a little distracted, I'm sorry. So back to the uncertainty of the circumstances of death. Yeah, I guess we all know one day we're going to die, and we will, most of the time we're not going to think about how we're going to die, when we're going to die, or die of what and what the situation. It's like a natural habit, because it's not going to be a very pleasant thought to think about death. But for practitioners, this is kind of required, and so by meditating on those uncertainties, and then we will be able to actually face that much more easily, and we'll treasure our time better, in a better way. Any, yeah.
Can help add a little comment. Remind me of Steve Jobs. Whether Steve Jobs is a genuine Buddhist is debatable according to many people, but he does meditation. He went to India and all those, right? And one thing, I think one of the key was that in Stanford, where he was given that few points, right? Connecting the dots, and one of them, like the few points he was making, one of them is he always thinks that he's gonna die next day. And until today, I don't know how he connects this thought with his key decisions on his business. But according to him, that helped him really make good decisions. I somehow, like from my own experience, I guess, if you really, of course, everyone knows, it's really not new to anyone. If we read these slides to anybody, probably anyone, you don't have to teach me. I do know that. But does anyone, or does many people really think that I'm going to die tomorrow, or maybe next hour, next minute or second, with that really, really deep understanding, acceptance of that? Maybe not. But if you try, as part of our class is the meditation, which is the analytical part, right? We hear this message. Maybe this message is not new, but when this emphasized, we sit down and do that analytical meditation for multiple sessions until we really have a deep understanding. Wow, this is really not just a day-to-day general message. It's really, really deep. Until when we really accept and realize, I think it's really, we can feel, we can know that it helps our decision making a lot, right? Although this is really still not the main part of this teaching, is because next step or next steps, we're going to mention the we know it's uncertain, human birth is so precious. What should we do, right? To like utilize. It's more the dharma and following the good teachers. But even for this kind of decision making, this helps a lot. So if we can give it a try. Mine is still at a very basic level too, but I kind of understand a little bit of how Steve Jobs can connect this with his decision making. That's what I want to comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Oliver. Great. So it does help us to make the right decisions. And also, I think Laranga here, it's where the Khenpo Institute is located in Sichuan province in China. So we always call it the Narengai. It means Naren, the little Naren Valley. Yeah, that's where they were like the monks who turned into light body, right? Rainbow body when they die. That's the location. Okay, we'll move on. We have a little more content today. So what is the only thing that is certain? Now we know all those other things are not certain. What is the only thing that is certain? I'm going to call randomly today. Tashi. Tashi, are you there? Maybe.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. What is it? The only thing that is certain? The only certain thing with a constant running, our lifespan is only decreasing and never increasing. As Acharya Shatidawa says, never eating, healthy, die all night. My life is always slipping by. Having gone, life cannot be extended. So how could the likes of me not die? There is an analogy in peace instructions in Bado and the other Dharma practice. A person is falling into a deep abyss. In such an emergency, he grasps and holds onto a handful of grasses which are gone with, in turn by two reds, one black and one white. The grasses are bound to be gone off, and a first beast is waiting at the bottom with his mouth wildly open. At that moment, he sees honey dropping from the honeycombs above him, sweet and refreshing. So he forgets that he is in the danger and enjoying the honey with the great pleasure. What does this mean? Our lifespan is as fragile as the grass being grasped. Days and nights are passing away like the black and white reds gone on the grass alternately. The low realms that people fell into after their deaths, and like the first beasts, waiting below with their mouths wide open. However, seeing their current life and about to end, their future lives are quite worrisome. People are still indulgent in the honey-like, honey-like pleasures of the five desire. This is extremely foolish.
Thank you. Have you read this story before about this analogy?
I heard this in Chinese, I guess, right?
Yeah, you should.
Yeah.
Any comments here?
No, thank you.
All right. So any comments from other people? Just two rats means like a day and a night, and lying on the grass that this person is hanging to. The grass itself is not very sturdy. That means our life. And two rats, one black and one white, means the night and the day. So our days just pass by, just like the rats are gnawing on the grass. And then there is a beast underneath of the abyss, and the person is about to fall into. And then he was hanging there, and then for the moment he saw that honey was dripping down, so he was just totally got indulged into the honey and enjoy the honey and forget everything else, like all the dangers and all the worries. And so that is just like us, most of the people, we are living in this life and pursuing all those, all these pleasures that we want to enjoy, like including wealth, fame, all that. And we forget that there is this beast waiting for us in the next life, in the day, and then this day and the lights passing by, just the rats, like the rats, gnawing on our days. So, and then we ignore everything, just enjoy our pleasures day after day, right? So this is what this is analogy. This is the famous analogy, actually, talking about how foolish we are in our ordinary lives. And this is what we do seriously if we think about what everyone is doing nowadays. How many people think about the next lifetime, and what we are doing every day is actually kind of in the pursuit of the pleasure. We actually really lose ourselves in that. Any other comments from anyone else? You can also type in the chat box if you like. Okay, so so we don't know when we're going to die, how we're going to die, and all that. But the one thing we do know for sure, that our lifespan is running shorter and shorter. It's never going to increase, right? So there are lots of instructions about this, and we know for sure, but we don't really put this knowledge into use because we don't really have that urgency to practice dharma, which is the only helpful thing for this life and for the next life. Okay, so next one, I need to bring out Irene, please.
Sure. Few things favor life and most favor death. There are very few things in the world that favor life, and as many as a yak's hair that threaten it. As the master Aryadeva points out, causes of death are numerous, causes of life are few, and even they become causes of death. Bodhisattva Nagarjuna also said in Precious Garland of Madhyamika, how numerous are the causes of death, how few are the causes to live, and they are also the causes of death. Around each of us, there are numerous causes of death, such as fire, water, poisons, precipices, savages, wild beasts, and other things. Looking at the daily newspaper, they report all kinds of disasters happening around the world all the time. Human lives are facing threats every moment. In addition to these natural disasters, the imbalance of the four general elements in human beings itself is also a cause of death that cannot be neglected. As stated in the Buddhist scriptures, there are 404 kinds of human diseases and 80,000 kinds of Mara obscurations. It is evident that all manner of mortal dangers abound, but only very few things can prolong life. Even clothing, food, medicine, and other things that people usually considered as life-sustaining can at times turn into causes of death.
Thank you. Any questions or comments here?
Yeah, I think even just the line that there are many more things in this world that favor death more than life is very confronting. I think it just shows how rare and precious it is to be human and to live the entirety of our lives. But being able to live through its entirety is not promised, and it could end at any moment. And it does, make me think that if I died tomorrow, would I feel like I studied and practiced and the Dharma enough, or if I generated enough good karma during my time here. And it makes me think about if I really took the Dharma teachings to heart, or I question if I still have this shallow and superficial feeling about it. So it's a very confronting passage, and it really does make me think. And also just to reflect on how all the things that we think prolong our life can actually end our lives at the same time. So there really is no knowing when we're going to die.
Yeah, so true. Thank you. And I think there's further explanation. Let's go. Let's move on. If there's no questions. If any questions over
There is
here.
a question actually. Either I don't want to answer this question, or it can even be a question who wants to ask me. This information, is it giving you more stress, or
I would say like kind of yes, but I mean I've contemplated death for like a while now, and there's always a part of it that kind of induces a feeling of a little bit of anxiety. But at the same time, I'm learning to contemplate it in a way that doesn't invoke so much avoidance and fear and anxiety, and kind of remove the emotions that I attach to death, and kind of see it and understand it for what it truly is, which it really is just a reminder and a fact of impermanence.
That's great.
I'm trying to, I'm realizing it takes practice, and it's not enough to just think about it a few times here and there, because I want it to lead me to a more meaningful and zealous practice. So there's a purpose to contemplating it for me. And I think I'm hoping that I can kind of have more courage and understanding around it. So it's still a little bit, it's hard to contemplate, but I'm still working towards it.
Great, thank you. I think like many other challenges, confronting as compared with avoiding can always probably be the only way to solve a problem. So I guess, I think for me too, maybe when first hearing it, probably give you even more pressure. But after contemplating it, just, meditate and just experience for a little bit, for some time, and then you realize it's much better than avoiding, because avoiding, you always have the fear. You cannot escape anyways, right? So confronting, think about it, and then it's really not that bad. And that also is true. And then it gives us this solid foundation, for any other actions we're going to take. Well, thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Let's move on. Yeah. This is just further explain the food and the many fatalities, and how the food actually may harm us. And then there will be a few slides talking about vegetarian, touch a little bit vegetarian. Okay. Fernando, would you mind to please read for us? We just
Sure.
thank you.
Many fatalities occur as a result of eating. It is worth mentioning that many fatalities occur as a result of eating. Many people compete to enjoy some expensive food for its beneficial properties, but the result is not only unbeneficial to the body, but it becomes toxic under certain circumstances and causes a variety of diseases. Or some foods should not be eaten in combination with certain other foods, such as beef with brown sugar or dog meat with eels. If they're eaten together, there will be adverse reactions that lead to toxicity and even death. Many people do not have this kind of common sense. Other foods, due to improper cooking methods or improper storage, can also produce unexpected toxins. Nowadays, most people crave meat and consume flesh and blood without a second thought and without any Buddhist idea of law of cause and effect at all. In Tibet, before Patrul Rinpoche, eating flesh and blood was very popular due to the influence of the Bon religion. Therefore, it is completely oblivious that almost everyone has infected diseases caused by Ngöndro or Sjagren. Other examples of food-related diseases: liver fluke, pulmonary schistosomiasis, liver schistosomiasis, bacillary dysentery, and hepatitis C. Unhealthy diets and lifestyle give rise to tumors, disorder of phlegm, dropsy, and other causing innumerable deaths. Similarly, the quest for riches, fame, and other glories incites people to fight battles, to brave wildebeest, cross rivers recklessly, and to risk countless other situations that may bring about their demise.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
So do you have any questions or comments on these passages? Any circumstances that the food become a toxin?
Definitely. It's a struggle for me. I overeat a lot, especially as I like stress eat at night times, and yeah, it's not good.
Yeah, it's not good.
I get too full and I just can't do anything, and then I'm not productive, things like that.
I do that too. So I think occasionally do it is okay, but don't do it all the time. So obesity is now becoming a medical treatable disease, which is unbelievable. Which should not be, right? Now they actually medical society is defining obesity as an illness, which should not be, and they are this is just simply caused by overeating, constant like a long-term overeating. That's not good.
Even that true for many other diseases, if not all. It's a habit more than, again, back to, don't get me started on commenting our medical system.
Yeah,
it's okay. Yeah, well, I guess we should just thank for our translators, because all these medical terms.
Yeah, forget about this. I cannot pronounce them either. So, yeah, there is more. Let's move on to the next one, talking about benefits of being a vegetarian. This is all related to the food cause like problems and cause maybe death. Well, our next one will be Jeff.
Benefits of being a vegetarian. You will be worry-free if you do not eat meat at all. So everyone should widely promote the idea of vegetarianism. If you understand law of cause and effect, have read Surangama Sutra and Mahaparinvana Sutra, you have a very clear view on vegetarianism. Even without faith in these teachings, being a vegetarian would still be very beneficial to your physical health. Not long ago, I read a book by a senior editorial board in which a reporter asked Monk Venhuan the Elder, "It doesn't seem very scientific that people in Buddhism don't eat meat. I think the human body needs nutrition." Elder Venhuan smiled and said, "Look at my body. I am 102 years old. Do I lack nutrition?" Instead, being a vegetarian is a cause of longevity. In 1972, Misha Haruhanda and Tomotari Mitsuoka, who are the professors of the University of Tokyo in Japan, showed that Tokyo residents lived a better life and made more money, and they ate mainly meat, while people in the villages had no money, so they mostly favored vegetarian food. So people from the suburb area lived longer. Why is eating meat harmful to health? Because meat can harm the immune system in our body. People who eat excessive amount of meat will have an excessive accumulation of cellular acids in their bodies. The accumulation of a large amount of residual components in the large intestine, which in turn will produce a large amount of bacteria and all kinds of toxins. Carcinogens are thus formed and cause the body to become sick. Therefore, the conclusion is quitting meat, favoring vegetables, and changing dietary habits can make people live a longer and healthier life.
Thank you. So, what do you think about these?
This is really hard for me because I was raised on meat and potatoes and still like my meat. Since I've known Feng, my meat intake is down probably 70% versus what it was before I knew her. That to get to 100% though is something that I know would be beneficial to me to do, but I just don't have the ultimate willpower and energy to do it. That's been a struggle of mine for years. I understand that the plant-based proteins and all these things are good for you, but damn, there's still times when a good piece of steak and stuff is close to nirvana for me too.
So quitting meat for Jeff is a mission impossible. But I think Jeff is doing great.
Memphis is probably harder, huh?
Yeah.
Well, there's different food here. I mean, this is the home of all the rib places, and
Yeah.
the one thing here that's very amazing is I'm not sure they know how to cook anything here that's not fried.
Yeah, this is Memphis, and famous for frying food, but also Midwest. I study cancer epidemiology, so I know Midwest is the place that cancer incidence is super high in America. It's because of the diet habit, and also vegetables are relatively expensive over here comparing to California.
I know. I was traveling there. It was hard for me to find much things.
You can find it here, but you got to really hunt for it.
Mm. Yeah.
And Feng does a great job of doing as much vegetable dishes and things as possible for around here. And I truly probably eat 25% of the amount of meat that I used to eat. And I do think that's helping my health conditions.
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't know, not try to scare anyone. I have a colleague leading really kind of happy life until the 40s. He's so, tall, very good looking young man, late 30s. He told me he maybe because of growing up poor, food is kind of an issue for him. He ate 3 pounds of meat per meal.
Whoa.
For
oh my God,
10 years. Right? No problem until really late 30s, he's 40 now, but he's got colon cancer last year as of, I think, of 2020. It's really bad. He just got a kid, you know, girlfriend. I think just got married. Anyways, well, not to scare and try to get everyone to be vegetarian, but if you try reduce a little bit, little by little, and have it cook well in a you know more healthy way of cooking probably will help also. Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Red meat and processed meat, including all those sausages, we should really avoid, because those are classified by International Research of Cancer, IRC, International Association of Research on Cancer. They give like all these chemicals and the food classification, whether they are carcinogens or not. You know, everybody knows what is carcinogen, right? That cause cancer. So red meat and processed meat now are classified as group 1 carcinogens, which means they actually do cause cancer, especially the colon cancer. So I am sure Oliver's colleague is that reason, red meat and processed meat.
Yeah, if you remember, the UN published one type of sausage that's really not healthy. Kind of number like top cause of certain cancer, etc. But though that either publication or news was removed, I guess there was a big fight on the interest, but the money behind. So
doesn't matter. IARC is the is the research structure that that like classify all the carcinogens. They don't define specific type of processed meat. They just classify the entire processed meat and the red meat. Yeah.
Yeah, the truth is there. We just need to go find it, because sometimes it's hidden, sometimes it's not. It's kind of blocked by maybe the meat interest group.
And there is also another piece of advice from Khenpo Sodargye, and he advised that if you have to eat meat, try to avoid those like mixed like sausage type of mixed meat, because in that way you are eating all kinds of different meat in one meal. Meaning like every piece of the meat we eat into our body, meaning you are like creating like a karmic connection with that original animal. So if that mixed meat has pork, beef, chicken, everything, then you are making a lot of karmic connections with those animals at the same time. Well, okay, let's go on to the next one, because see here we talk about the 2 sutras about eating meat, right? So I want to look up what is said in the sutras. So this is what is said in the sutras. There's a Shuragama Sutra talk about meat. This is from the Buddha himself, his teaching. He says, how then, after my nirvana, can you eat the flesh of living beings and so pretend to be my disciple? You should know that those who eat meat, though the minds may open and realize a semblance of samadhi. Samadhi is like some sort of realization, high concentrative meditation, are but great rakshasas. Rakshas is those like powerful ghosts who eat raw blood and the meat and in the ghost realm, and who after this life will sink back into the bitter ocean of samsara and cannot be my disciples. They will kill and devour one another ceaselessly. How then can how then can they escape from the three worlds of existence? So the three worlds of existence means samsara. So for my own understanding, I think this passage just say, if we eat the meat of other living animals, living beings, and then we are creating this karma, and in the like we are creating, we are owing that to those other animals. So and the end results will be like this lifetime maybe I eat the fish, and the next time the fish will eat me. Like the fish will appear to be a human being, and maybe me being the fish, and then eating each other like in this way, and the cycles go on forever. So in that way, we will never be actually be liberated, because we're always creating new deaths all the time. And the next one talking about the Mahaparinibbana Sutra. It talks from the other another angle. Then Bodhisattva Kashyapa said to the Buddha, "O world-honored one, to one who eats flesh, we should not give flesh. Why not? I see a great virtue arising out of abstention from eating flesh." The Buddha praised Kashyapa and said, "Well said, well said. You now come to know my mind well. A bodhisattva who protects dharma should be thus. O good man, from now on, I do not permit my Shravaka disciples to eat meat. When receiving from a dharma party a pristine dharma of faith, think that one is eating the flesh of one's own son." Bodhisattva Kashyapa said further to the Buddha, "O world-honored one, why is it that the Tathagata does not allow us to eat meat? O good man, one who eats meat kills the seed of great compassion." So here, this is the second passage come from the different angle. Says if we eat meat, that means we are like kills the seed of great compassion in us, because all the bodhisattvas would view every living being in this world as their own son. So if we eat the meat, it's like we are eating the meat of, if we have that mind, okay, like eat your sons, your daughters' meat. For that kind. So that's a super indication of lack of compassion. So for these sutras, we would see that eating meat, the negative effect of eating meat, one is it makes us like not be able to be liberated from samsara, because we're creating more and more karmas, negative karmas. And the second one is that because it's an indication of lacking of great compassion. So without compassion, we kind of like cut off our way to liberation, because compassion is actually the base for liberation. Okay, so well, for this is what is said in the sutra, and for those who cannot avoid the meat completely today, it's okay. Make an effort to eat less, and gradually, and we'll be there. So don't worry too much. So next one, this one will have a little longer reading. Joe.
Causes of death are ever presenting. People usually think, I will probably not die because I am still young, and there are still many things I need to do. However, these are only specious reasons and are not justified at all. It is absolutely not true that you will not die just because you are young. This is called inconclusive reason in Hetuvita. Well-practiced people will always contemplate the uncertain time of death, with a constant reminder of themselves, I am not sure when I will die. With this idea, they will be very zealous in practice, and will not chat and do some meaningless chores every day. But nowadays, the most lacking in the city people is the concept of impermanence. They keep putting off their practice of virtuous dharma until next year, the year after, or even after they retire. I met a 50-year-old man who said he would come back to the academy 15 years later to study the dharma. He had a very good plan for the future.
Okay, I'm going to switch to the text, and maybe you can read the story for us. This, can you see it well?
Yes.
Okay.
There is a story about an old man in Dhammapada Sutra. When the Buddha was in Sravasti, there was a Brahmin who was almost 80 years old. He was very wealthy, but miserly and foolish by nature. He spent a lot of time supervising and directing the craftsmen to construct a luxurious mansion for himself. The Buddha knew that he only had one more day to live and felt pitiful for him, but the Brahmin was unaware of it and was busy with meaningless things. Thus, the Buddha came to see him personally. The Buddha asked him, "Are you tired of such hard work? What is the use of building such a luxury mansion?" The old Brahmin proudly said, "The front of this house will be the living room. The back will be my bedroom. The rooms in the east and west will be for my family, children, and servants. In the summer, I can go to the veranda to cool off. In the winter, I can move back to the warm room and live in great comfort." The Buddha said, "Your idea is great. I have a verse for you. Will you put down your work for a moment and listen to it?" The old Brahmins replied, "I am too busy to sit down and listen to you. Let's talk about it in a few days. If you have something to say, you can talk about it briefly now." The Buddha said, "Although you have made great arrangements for your future and regard yourself relatively wise, but you are not aware of the swiftness of impermanence. You will soon leave this world, but you are still keeping yourself busy for nothing. There is no greater foolishness than this." The old Brahmin replied, "What you say is indeed reasonable, but I'm really busy today. Let's talk later." Seeing the Brahmin so very stubborn and not taking any advice, the Buddha could just let him be. Shortly after the Buddha left, the old Brahmin went to install the roof beam, but the beam suddenly fell and killed him on the spot.
All right, thank you. So what do you think? Any comments here?
I thought that was a very interesting story. I think at one point I probably too had the same mentality. I'll put it off until later, put it off until I retire. And as we talk about this topic more and more, I realize that it's something we just have to diligently chip away, and that's why I show up to class every week.
Yeah, you're doing great.
Yeah.
Very impressed. Yes. Indeed, we sometimes just say, well, we have all these great plans, right? And then it's not necessarily work out the way we planned always. Okay, let's go to the next one. Any more comments on that one? Anyone on that story or the plan? Let's do it after I retire, and now I can still go easy for a little while. Okay.
Maybe a couple of words. I think for maybe this is more the Chinese society for the time that I grew up with. All these Buddhism and other traditional, even like Taiji, were viewed as hobby or things or game for senior people, right? If you are not like 60 in your 60s yet, that's not yours. Of course, this is wrong, very wrong in many cases, and even the Taiji itself is kind of one of the highest class of kung fu that you can do. It really train you to fight. Well, not to mention Buddhism. This is, as we study, we know it's more like, it's not a hobby. It's not your golf or things like that. It's more the air that you breathe, and right, you cannot do with it, and with and without, and that's really everything, right? Just like everything, every aspect of our life, and more than that, right? It's profound, the really foundation of our life. So yeah, I think that's great. And Joe and many of you too that continue with this class, that's a real good, I guess, that not only right, maybe the message, but really some, maybe the karma connections too, that you're able to, it's not easy. It's really a dedication, a commitment. For this one, it's like 2 years, right? And yeah, great. I guess we should congratulate ourselves. even we're already gone this far. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Oliver. So one thing that I never really regret on anything that I have done or I have not done. But one thing I do regret is that I didn't met the Dharma earlier in my life. I studied in my late 40s, and it's a little bit late. And before that, I really created so much negative karma and was so ignorant.
Yeah, from today,
Unbelievable.
I heard the Dzogchen Rinpoche, one of the video clip. He said, I started my Midiyamaka study when I was 15. I said, okay, no wonder he's a tuku.
Yeah.
For me, it's just reverse it.
So, but still feel lucky that we do still have this chance and have these great masters here teaching us so we can follow. Okay, next one. That's we have finished one round, right? Oh, Pollyanna.
Yes. Furthermore, yes. Furthermore, because sentient beings have numerous different causes of death, the moment when any of those might intervene is entirely unpredictable. Some die in their mother's womb, some at birth, others before they learn to crawl. Some die young, others die old and decrepit. As the Buddha said in the chapter of causes and conditions. Some die in the womb, some depart after they are born to earth, some pass away when they can crawl only, some perish while they can run. There are old ones and there are young, some are in their primes, but leave the world one by one. When some people are ill, they die before they can get medicine or help. Some people have gotten into an ambulance but die halfway. Others linger on, glued to their beds by years of disease, watching the living with the eyes of the dead. By the time they die, they are just skeletons wrapped in skin. I have seen many such patients who can neither live or die. A while ago, a man called me and said, "Please bless me to die faster. If I live like this, not only a burden for others, it is also extremely painful for myself. But it is not that easy to die if his karma has not been exhausted." Many people, because of having Nyingtik disease, die suddenly or by accident while eating, talking, or working. Some even take their own lives.
Great, thank you. Do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, so I think I have never really thought about this for myself. I've seen a lot of people in that I know suffer all these and all have all these, but I never really thought about myself. But thinking about this during this class, I feel like doing practice is so important, and it's like if we think about our death in like tomorrow, do we do our practice like in a lazy way just to finish the numbers, or like for example, if we are doing our chantings, if you have that thought in your mind, would you still be like sleepy during chanting, or you should all use up all your energy to do all the practice? So this is really my thought after
Wow.
thinking about this.
Wow, great. Thank you. Very nice. So this is just say very different kind of situations. Some are older, some are younger, some even die as babies. So I think in Khenpo's teaching, there's also a saying in Chinese that is not very easy to understand. It says, "There's no old or young on the path of death," right? That means in front of death, if you're dying, if you're dead, you're equal. There is no difference how old you are, how young you are. It doesn't matter. So not only, and there's also another saying. If you look at the tombs in the mountains, like those standing along, most of those ones belong to the younger people. That is also true in China in that kind of custom, because otherwise the younger ones always like it's like standing aside, I will say, like not really like taken care of by the family because they die young. It's just a Chinese custom. So okay, different kind of, now we come to the conclusion of D7. We'll get our master Oliver to do this one.
I'm sorry. You didn't. It's okay, we'll just study together. Conclusion for D7, many causes of death. In conclusion, there are many causes of death in this world. No matter if it is eating, walking, riding in a car, taking a plane, or even just staying at home, death can come suddenly. Surrounded by so many causes of death, your life has a little chance of enduring as a candle flame in the wind. Nagarjuna's precious garland said, constantly living in the causes of death like a candle in the gale. The great ornament Shastra Sutra also said, life is like a candle in the wind, not knowing the time for it to cease. In addition, the Shastras also said, life is in the length of our breath, and life is like a bubble. Since this is the case, we should not be busy dressing up and making money every day, making many plans for the future, since the arrival of death often catches people off guard. There is no guarantee that death will not suddenly strike right now, and that tomorrow you will not be reborn as an animal with horns on its head. Therefore, you should be quite sure that when you are going to die is unpredictable, and that there is no knowing where you will be born next, and practice this conscientiously for a long time. Okay. Maybe a little bit comment. I think in the text there is an example. Is it 37, lesson 37? Because
Yes.
there's a practitioner, that Kadamba tradition, they, in those Larangar winter, there's not much electricity. The heating is just by coal or burning wood or the yak waste, right? So they have special type of, is that what that called, stove, for burning that? Anyways, it's a heating device. So if for a good practitioner that really has this, I may not be, wake up again tomorrow. They just don't keep that device dormant. There's a way to put some ashes on top of it, so it's a slow burning. So next day you don't have to start up all the way from burning new coal to light up again from very beginning. Anyways, it is said as a good tradition, but in real life, I think there are people helping him, because every day he just don't cover it up. So next day he's asking others to help to light it up again. Others will think this practitioner is really weird. What is doing, this weird guy? Many don't really understand. But from the other side, if you look at him, this is someone that really have an understanding of, I may not even wake up tomorrow. So that will be very helpful for the practice itself, for his own mind. So I guess it's an interesting example. Even among, I think that's even in Larangar, there are still people the intensity of practice is different, right? These are maybe some of the top ones, but there are people who are trying at different, for example, I always say at kindergarten level or elementary school level. So yeah, we don't really, the teachings in this one is really, I think it's a high level. I guess what I'm trying to say is, if we are not, or if we cannot match all these kind of high level standard, don't blame ourselves too hard, right? Where are they very good? Even be staying in this class. That's one message. The other one is, I think the other Khenpo explained the animals with horn. Basically, I think it just means if we don't practice hard and get a certain level of assurance for the practice, we'll be easily born into other realm in our next life. Something maybe needs a little explanation also. That's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Oliver. Yeah, they talk about the stoves and when I learned study this lesson, I was really impressed by this line. Surrounded by so many causes of death, your life has as little chance of endurance as a candle flame in the wind. So or this other one, constantly living in the course of death like a candle in the gale. Think about how long, how much chance the candle flame can survive in the wind. So this line just stayed with me since first time I studied it. This is maybe 7 years ago. But I'm still not a good practitioner. So anyhow, this is the conclusion for D7. This D6, that was for D6. Now we're going to move to the next point, intense awareness of impermanence. I think that Oliver's story belongs to this section, but it is all the same. So just keep this constant constant awareness of impermanence and death. Let's see, we need one more person to do this. Any volunteers? We went around, one round. Just turn on your microphone and talk.
I'll go.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe.
Intense awareness of impermanence. Meditate single-mindedly on death all the time and in every circumstance. While standing up, sitting or lying down, tell yourself, this is my last act in this world, and meditate on it with utter conviction. For example, on your way to wherever you might be going, say to yourself, maybe I will die there. There is no certainty that I will ever come back. When you set out on a journey or pause to rest, ask yourself, will I die here? Wherever you are, even if you are staying somewhere for a night, you should wonder if this might be where you die. Of course, when worldly people hear this, they may think you are crazy and have mental issues. It is impossible for someone to die just by sitting on the stairs when they are in perfect health. It would be too pessimistic to stay in this kind of panic every day and thus having no ambitious goals in life. However, this is not the case. Their pursuit of worldly concerns is completely different from our practice of renunciation. If we can truly develop the mind of renunciation through this practice, we will not be interested in anything except seeking liberation. There are some contradictions between practitioners and worldly people in this aspect. If you can practice impermanence very well, you can definitely see through all phenomena in the world, just like a patient with jaundice seeing greasy food. He has no interest in it. The only thing you will seek is liberation.
Great. What do you think? The contradictions between the practitioner and the worldly people?
This is a concept I'm still working on, honestly.
Okay. Yeah.
The way I understand it is that I think that worldly people, right, lay people like ourselves, we still have social and more, responsibilities to family, to employers and our communities. So I haven't fully bridged the gap here on this one.
Okay, I understand. Well, being a practitioner does not, at this stage, does not require you to quit everything and just focus on practice. We are actually, instead, we're encouraged to still to engage in all sorts of social activity and to be responsible for ourselves and for the family, for the work, right? But that has no contradiction actually with our practice. What is said here, I think, is just like to have this idea that we may die next moment, right? So that is not a contradiction, I would say. But it's difficult for people to understand the idea. It does not have any contradiction. I think it's more like in the perception. The contradiction is more in the perception. It's not on the action level. How do I say this? I would need some help.
Yeah, it's probably a topic that we're going to continue to discuss. I had for a long time also, but I think right now I'm at. You can still, well, you actually should even, take those responsibilities, work, family, but we always think, we 100% and being attached to it because we're so serious about it for many things, if not all. Things becomes worse if we're just that serious about it. right? Relationship, for example, if we think, I want to make my wife happy, right? I want to please her, but I guess in most of the cases that does not achieve that goal. But if you give this, impermanence, karma, and all these, put that into the relationship, you give you a little bit of relax, you step back a little bit, I guess, for both relationship work, and you will see you don't sacrifice efficiency, you don't sacrifice the relationship too. Usually it's the contrary, it becomes better somehow. I guess we probably don't go too deep because we can always keep this topic. It's something that we really want to find out that good answer, the ultimate answer in between. It's not the compromise. It's not even a compromise. It's actually it does help each other. There's something more ultimate and profound there. But the good news, it worked in both my work and relationship. It worked. So we can share in the future gradually.
Yeah, just keep practicing. You'll see, you'll feel it. All right. Our time is kind of running out. So this is that point talking about, I think, the Kadamba's practice before sleeping. I think I'll do this one. Meditate death before sleeping. Therefore, no matter what we do, we should always think about the impermanence of death. At night, when you lie down, ask yourself whether you might die in bed during the night or whether you can be sure that you're going to get up in the morning. I think about this question, I think about this quite often, especially before sleeping at night when my mind is relatively clear and not distracted. I can often contemplate this content. In fact, contemplating impermanence requires cultivation into a habit. If you can think more about this every day before you go to sleep, this kind of remembrance will naturally arise. You should never be like animals who fall asleep deadly once lying down and crawl up in the days when they wake up awake. There is no any Buddhist awareness at all. When you rise, ask yourself whether you might die sometime during the day, or reflect that there's no certainty at all that you will be going to bed in the evening. Meditate only on death, earnestly and from the core of your heart. Those who practice well will have a deep understanding of this, while those who do not practice in their daily life will not be affected, no matter how many teachings I give. In the past, the Kadamba geshes of old were always thinking at night before they go to sleep how the next day there might be no need to light a fire. So they would never cover the embers for the night and would turn their bowls upside down, having a solid and extraordinary understanding about death at every moment. I think this is our last slide. So this is really a good, I would think this is a good piece of instruction, like we can actually do on a daily basis. We all go to sleep at night, get up in the morning. So it's actually one of the best times we can practice impermanence, or do some other practice of dharma. Slowly I think everybody can form this habit, because right before you go to sleep, you can take just a moment to think about impermanence, whether I can get up in the morning, maybe not, it's not a sure thing. So there are other ways of practicing too. You can practice, there's like a dream yoga practice. You can before you go to sleep, you just imagine the Buddha is above you on above your heart position and shine the lights on you. And in that way, you can go to sleep. It's a really good way to fall asleep. And then when you get up, and we get up every morning, and don't just rush to work and you just take maybe half a minute to remind yourself about this reality is impermanent, it's illusory, and do not get too much attachment to it. So if you do this before you go to sleep and after you get up, and you kind of like cover your entire day in that kind of like awareness. So it's one of the best way, I would think, to practice any dharma. So I think this is all the contents for today. Any questions overall and any comments? So I think our time is preset, right? Yeah, we're not going to go over the meditation points because we just don't have time. But if we do, this would be the points we would take. If you just take like 5 minutes, I'm going to put the slide into the photo. If you can just take 5 minutes to meditate on these points, will be really helpful. This is a summary for today's lesson. And next one is our dedication. Jeff?
By this accumulation of merit, may I obtain all-seeing omniscience, and may all faults be defeated. The whirling, turbulent waves of birth, aging, sickness, and death from this ocean of samsara, may I liberate beings. Just as the Bodhisattva Manjushri attained omniscience, and Samantabhadra too, all these merits now I dedicate to train and follow in their footsteps. As all the victorious Buddhas of past, present, and future praise dedication as supreme, so now I dedicate all these roots of virtue for all beings to perfect good actions. Om Aham Vajraguru Padma Siddhi Hum.
Thank you, everyone.